Closing arguments are underway in Rudy Giuliani's defamation trial in Washington.
The former New York City mayor decided he would not testify today in an abrupt about-face from previously announced plans. Two Georgia election workers are suing former President Trump's former attorney for falsely spreading conspiracies about them after the 2020 election. The defendants say Giuliani's remarks damaged their reputations and caused extreme emotional harm. They also claim they've received a flood of threats because of his lies. A judge has already found Giuliani liable. This trial will determine the damages.
CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us now. Scott, talk to us about the strategy behind Giuliani deciding, really at the last minute, not to testify today.
Oh, there are potentially a whole bunch of reasons, but let's begin with what his attorney said as he began closing statements this afternoon. His attorney said the two plaintiffs in this case, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, those Georgia election workers, had already been through enough, and that Giuliani wanted to spare them any more experience in the courtroom. They gave tearful testimony this week. They described some horrific, vile, vulgar threats they received in the time between Election Day 2020 and now. But Giuliani may have other motivations for not wanting to take the stand here. He would have left himself open to cross-examination from the plaintiff's lawyers, using some of his own words after the election against him. What's more, there could have been questions to Giuliani about Donald Trump and what the plaintiff's attorney described as a conspiracy and a misinformation campaign by Trump and Giuliani. And what was noted earlier today in court, and what could have come in if Giuliani took the stand, is what Giuliani's been saying outside the courthouse each day this week. He speaks with cameras and reporters after trial proceedings and seems to have been doubling down, arguing that he is right. He's been right and will prove himself right. And Errol and Lana, even though his attorney indicated he was going to testify before this jury, he has chosen not to. The jury will get this case before the end of the afternoon and decide how much Rudy Giuliani will have to pay in damages.
And let's not forget, Scott, what the women at the center of this have said about their experiences. These black women in the South saying, do you know what it's like to have the president of the United States and the full force of his reporters come down on you? These women are obviously traumatized by what they've been through, and Giuliani's already been found liable. So how is he trying to limit the ultimate penalty?
Well, the plaintiff's attorneys argue that Rudy Giuliani has not been forthcoming with how much he's worth, how much money he has. They argued in closing arguments today he still has a radio show, he has a deal with Newsmax, that he still has relevance right now. They have asked that the jury award $24 million each for Freeman and for the rest of the plaintiffs in this case, based on just the damages that were shown. But they also are asking for future or further damages, emotional damages, and also punitive damages. So this number can escalate much higher by tens of millions of dollars. Wow. The jury will determine damages. The judge has already determined that there's been defamation in this case, so it's unclear how long that will take, but the jury's going to get this case before day's end.
Well, Scott, I just want to follow up on something that you were saying about what Giuliani how Giuliani was presenting this case outside of court, because he's already been found guilty. But outside of court, he says that he told the truth. He has no regrets about his comments. He's already been found guilty. He's already been found liable. Is that expected to usually the defendant will be remorseful, trying to limit the amount of damages that they have to pay? Is this expected to play a role then in the consequences that Giuliani will face?
Very well could. Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss have been sitting about 10 feet away from Rudy Giuliani in the courtroom. We're listening. And the jury was listening today when the plaintiff's attorney played a little clip of one of those news conferences given by Rudy Giuliani earlier this week. So they've heard some of what he's been saying to cameras, potentially thinking that this was going to stay away from the jurors' ears. They heard a piece of it today. But I think it's also worth noting that Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss didn't just describe racism, vile language, and vulgarities. They described a sense of fear and a danger, that there was threatening words directed at them, strangers showing up at their home, the FBI urging them to relocate because of the danger. This is a component of what the plaintiff's attorneys are seeking, not just emotional damages, but punitive damages based on what these women have lived and a need to send a message to others that though the baseless conspiracies continue to persist and the instigators continue to instigate, that there has to be some type of moral hazard to stop this.
All right, Scott MacFarlane, thank you.